Good morning everybody, hope you're all well. So if you're a high mileage business driver, maybe a sales rep or you do site inspection, something like that, you may be amongst a group who have some concern about switching to electric vehicles. Now, I'm a high mileage driver. Today isn't untypical for me. I've got quite a few miles to cover. I've got to go from here across to Devon, then up to somewhere near Gloucester, and then back again. I've got about a 300-mile day. I'm in today a Tesla Model 3 long range, a 2021 model, and I'm going to talk about this as well. I think it's a bit of a buy of the moment, actually, because the price of these have been coming down recently, so they make great sense and great value. But the Tesla Model 3 long range is really, I think, the equivalent to kind of the BMW 3 Series, the Audi A4, the very common kind of executive cars where people travel a lot and they would have these as company cars. So I'm going to show you kind of how it works, how many miles you can really do to a charge, how much stoppage time I need, and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll also work out the costing. So I want to show how much the whole day is cost in terms of fuel. So for me, electric, but what your conversion would be for diesel or petrol. And then I'll also talk to you about benefit in kind tax. So if you drive a car as a company-owned vehicle, you'll pay benefit in kind tax, and that's where some of the really big savings come in with electric vehicles. So follow me on my day, I'll show you what I do, and then we'll work out some numbers, and I'll see if you're a bit more convinced that actually the switch to electric is perfectly possible and doable for you. Well, that's the plan. If it all goes wrong, then yeah, just blame me. So I started with my dad duties, and that's dropping my daughter to school, so off she goes there. I've got my equipment for the day: coffee, banana, and some drink. Okay, right, let's have a look what my day is today. Firstly, I've got to travel over to a place called Combustion. And this is kind of a cross-country route. It's a very kind of slow, there's no motorways, kind of a slow, arduous cross-country journey. And that's going to be my first stop. Now, I charged 100% this morning. Obviously, I've done a school run already, but I've got 317 miles based on 97% of the charge. Let's make this very much a real-world test of driving a fairly long distance, spending most of the day in an electric car in conditions that aren't favourable to electric cars. I'm not doing this in 20 degrees in the summer. This is now 5-6 degrees in winter in UK, so quite a different scenario. This drive, but anyway, I've got lots of ground to cover, so I'm gonna get going now, and I'll speak to you later. Okay, driving constantly. I've just arrived at the first stop now, so it is 10:40 in the morning, and I've got 66% of the battery left. So I've used 1/3 of the battery, and I've covered 98 miles, and I've averaged 222 watt hours per mile, which, given the temperature is still 6 degrees, I think is pretty good. So that's actually just over 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Remember, the car was pre-conditioned at home once it's still plugged in, so it warmed the battery through a little bit, which helped. And that was mainly country roads, so that kind of 50-60 miles an hour roads is quite an efficient speed. So that's pretty good. In fact, with the latest software on Tesla, we can actually have a look here that we use 30% of our battery on that journey. Driving used 26.1 of that, so it's actually slightly better than predicted. So it's given me elevation cost us 1%, so we've gone up in incline. But what's quite interesting here is low tire pressure cost me 0.7%. Now, I tend to run, this car's running 38 psi at the moment. I have to admit, I prefer the feel of the Model 3 with a slightly lower tire pressure. And so actually it should be 42 cold. I run 38 cold, just enough to trigger the tire pressure light you can see is actually on here. But that has cost me 0.7%, but I prefer the way the car feels, especially in its kind of slightly colder, slicker conditions here. So got a meeting with a client here now, so going to shoot off and do that, and then we'll get going for leg 2 of the journey, which is up to the Malvern Hills. So I'll get on with that soon. Yeah, it's now 11:45 in the morning. Picked up my colleague Gins from the first stop there, and we're now heading off up to the Malvern Hills. Lovely part of the country. Gins is currently driving. And what's quite good is because Gins has got a Tesla profile, and gets in the car, everything sets to his position. So it's very easy to switch between known drivers, so they're allocated to the car. And I'm going to sit back and relax whilst he drives. So. It's now 12:43. I need a wee and I'm hungry, so I'm going to stop at the services, but rather than parking over there, I'm going to park here and plug the car in whilst we're stopping. So we've still got 38% of the battery. We don't need to, the car doesn't need to stop, rather we need to stop. But let's have a quick look what we got there. So that was all motorway. That last bit there was 282 watt-hours per mile, so a bit under 4 miles per kilowatt hour. But have a look at this section here. Let's have a look. That last bit of the journey there. So we use 16.7% in total. See the breakdown we got here. So everything else used 0.5%, climate 0.3. So the everything else, or the processors, uses more energy than the climate. It's interesting. We didn't sort of put in the car that we were going to stop here, so there was no battery precondition for fast charging. But this is only 130 kilowatt charge, and we're pulling over 100 kilowatts anyway. So what we're going to do here is literally just quickly go and get something to eat and go to the toilet, what we need to do, and then carry on. With the car may as well be plugged in and charging whilst we are stopped anyway. Now I can see here the charging cost is going to be 39 pence per kilowatt hour at this time of day, which is actually a pretty good rate, isn't it? So again, we'll see how much this charges cost as well and add it onto the total. But right, I need to go, I need to eat, I need a toilet, let's go. It's now 12:57 and we're still waiting for our KFC. You're hungry, aren't you? Yeah, me too. So that was as quick as we could eat KFC, wasn't it? Yep. Now, what is it now? 14 minutes past, so that was just under half an hour, wasn't it? There's not enough cup holders in the Model 3 for a sales rep, is there? Well, a sales rep should have at least 4 or 5 cup holders and a large bin, I reckon. That's
yeah, one in the door as well.
That's a good point. Let's put that in the door, that there. So that's taken us up to 77%, which is more than enough that we need. So let's head on the next leg of the journey now and do our collection. We're picking up a Porsche. It's now 2:18 p.m. and we are up near Great Malvern. Very beautiful part of the country. Let's have a look at some data then whilst we're just waiting for our client. So, since we then charged, so that was motorway in the big country, 259 miles per mile, so about 4 miles per kilowatt hour, just under 4 miles per kilowatt hour. We've still got 63% of the battery, which gives us 205 miles of predicted range. And what's it going to take to get back to work? 147 miles back to work, 2 hours 47 minutes. So hopefully our client will be along soon and we can get going. Okay, 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm now in the Porsche Taycan that we've picked up from my client. Gintz, my colleague, is in the Model 3, so he's going to drive that. He's going to have charges to drive straight back to Bournemouth. So he's doing that, and we'll log and record tomorrow what we got for the overall day efficiency and running costs and stuff like that on that car. In the meantime, let's see what we get from a Porsche Taycan. So I've got 135 miles to get home. I collected it with a low state of battery, so I'm just charged. It's just hit 80% now. In fact, so I'm about to unplug and go. This is a Porsche Taycan 4S with a 20-inch wheel option, air suspension, which means the range mode drops down to make it a little bit more efficient. So I'll see what we get for efficiency of this. It's not as efficient as a Model 3, which is fantastic, but a beautiful car nonetheless. So I'm going to unplug and go. It's 6:15 in the evening and we're back after a 366 mile day. So what I'll do is I'll round up all the numbers tomorrow and give you the cost, the efficiency and all that kind of stuff with the Model 3. But hopefully you can see it was just dead easy to do that one stop whilst we were eating. So in the meantime, I've got back in the Porsche. I've got 28% left. So I actually averaged just over 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which isn't too bad in the Porsche. It's got a slightly more efficient 20-inch wheels on it. But the Tesla is more efficient than that. I did better than 4 miles per kilowatt hour. So like I said, I'll give you all the breakdown in the daylight tomorrow. So here we are next day and the car's all grubby like a sales rep car might be. So then I'm going to run through some numbers for you now. I'm going to explain how many miles we did, the efficiency, the cost of that. And I also want to quickly cover about benefit in kind tax. If you have a company-owned vehicle that you get to use, there's a huge saving to be had with electric vehicles. So what did we do yesterday? 366 miles in the end. Now, I had a thought that if I was in a petrol diesel car, that day would have cost me another 5-10 minutes or so because I've had to go and fill up at some point to do that day, whereas this is purely charged whilst I was doing other stuff. We had that quick stop at lunchtime and then I get home and it just charges overnight. So it was a quicker day with an electric car. It didn't cause me any inconvenience. So hopefully you can see that as a good example. Obviously it assumes you've got home charging, so you charge overnight. You know, if it's don't have that, then it's a slightly different dynamic. But right, so what did that cost? Well, that public charge was £13 whilst I was having lunch. And then recharging it from home back fully, if I was on a cheap overnight tariff, would have cost about another £4.36. So that would be £17.50 for that day, 366 miles. However, if I'm just paying the highest domestic UK tariff at the moment, 34 pence per kilowatt hour, that would have cost about another £21, so a total of about £34, kind of worst case scenario for that 366 miles. So you still have to have a pretty efficient petrol or diesel car to match those kind of running costs. I'm sure there's a few comments hidden down below now, but that diesel was at £1.99 per litre at that services at a stop for lunch. So yeah, work it off the miles per gallon of that. I'd normally do that, but haven't had time today. You'd have to have a pretty economical car, wouldn't you? So it's cheaper to run even with the higher electricity prices. We've established that. We've established it's not inconvenient. Now let's cover benefit in kind tax, because as a sales rep, you may well have a company-owned vehicle that you get to use for personal and business use. So you're going to pay tax on that. It's a benefit in kind. You'll pay tax for that pleasure. So looking online, if you've got a company car, you're going to know what you're probably paying per tax per month. It could be a couple of £100. I looked up a quick example, the latest BMW kind of 320D type car. They're looking like, if you're a 40% taxpayer, you're going to be paying about £330 per month as a benefit in kind tax for having that car. There's a lot of variables, a lot of online calculators, but 320D, pretty efficient, and I think the petrol version was about the same, wasn't it, against? So 318 IM Sport, again, you're paying a significant amount, over £300 a month as a 40% taxpayer, half of that if you pay less tax. A Tesla Model 3 long range like this as a 40% taxpayer at the moment is about £33 per month in benefit in kind tax. Now there's a big saving if I've ever seen it. And that's your pocket, that's coming out of as the driver, so surely you'd want an electric car. Well, you really should do, and that's why a lot of people have been switching to electric cars. It makes huge sense. So many savings to be had. I think even the Polo 1 litre Active was more in tax than this car here. So you can see why they're very popular, can't you? And hopefully you can see they're not inconvenient. And then you've got lower running costs. No tax, not until 2025 at least. No servicing really on one of these, a few tyres, and check your brake fluid every couple of years, but very little maintenance to go with them as well. And they're just pleasurable to drive. They're fast, they're very comfortable, a fantastic car. And what I wanted to say was that the 2021, which is a model like this, Model 3 long range, it's just slightly different to some of the early cars. It's got a heat pump, it's a bit more efficient. I mean, we average 241 watt hours per mile, so about 4.15 miles per every kilowatt hour. It's very efficient. This is a 21 long range with the heat pump, which helps with that efficiency. Now these cars are becoming good value. We've seen very high EV residuals through this year, but actually recently they've actually come down a bit in price. And we're looking at cars like this in the used market now, 40 to 50,000 pounds. Certainly in the mid 40s gets you a refresh model like this with heat pump, nice low mileage. And I think they're becoming a bit of a buy at the moment because they've just come down a little bit in value on the used market, makes them more affordable. And for that kind of money, 40, 45,000, I know it's a lot of money, but if you look at then the monthly running costs and the savings and such like, you can certainly make the numbers work for you, and they're certainly comparable to running the executive Audi, Mercedes, BMW type car as well. So they make sense, don't they? So I hope there's been a practical, useful video for you. If you don't think so, I'm sure you're going to comment below, so I look forward to reading those. If you think it was good and useful, let me know in the comments below as well. I look forward to reading all those. So losing the light again already, so I'll see you on the next video very soon. Thank you for watching.